How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield. Tell me about you, man. Let's do the thing. Timothy, I saw the whole thing. I was actually checking out, like I was going through the manifest. I was going through like even the 3 things that men should be doing, and I'm checking out some of your stuff. I got to hear like the journey. How did you get here? What broke through? Why do you do what you do? Your purpose. I got to know who Timothy is. What is going on here?
Yeah. So I got to admit, it's been a little while since I've been on a podcast and dug into this. Been distracted in life for a couple of years, but I started the Manifest because I was in my early 20s, and the only content I could find online was how to get laid, how to get in shape, and like how to pick up girls. Like it was nothing, I would say, of substance, if I'm being honest, like on a directional manner. Like how do you actually navigate life and all these things? And so I, at the same time of this unrest in my life, and I think it's a classical development, honestly, in your late teens, early 20s to wonder what it means to be a man and trying to figure out who you are. Like, it seems like a normal journey that you go through in your 20s. Hopefully, you go through and get to the other side. Um, while that was occurring, I had picked up the hobby of photography, and I had observed that most good photographers create a project. They build their skills and whatnot around this project, not saying they can't do things around it, but they kind of go down one niche. And so I don't know how I came to this conclusion, but I was like, I'm going to do street photography, and I'm going to interview people and ask them, if you were to describe what it means to be a man in one word, what would it be and why? And um, I burned through my family and my friends, and then I hit the streets, interviewed a bunch of people, and it it evolved. It was like this thing took a life of its own, right? Um, and I mean, it was just really interesting. So then I started writing about my observations. You know, you talk to a couple hundred people, then you start to see patterns and needs and things like that. And I noticed that like digestible content for men around emotional intelligence didn't exist, right? And so I started my attempt at writing that all while I was going through, I put myself through therapy, and I put myself through, men's retreat weekends. I was like making myself a guinea pig of everything I could find, and I was growing professionally too at the same point. I was a electrician, and well, I still am, but um, yeah. So that was all going on, and it was a really good um, way for me to like. I couldn't get it out of my mind, like that there are other people who were just like me who were looking for answers and couldn't find them. And I was like, even though I couldn't find them when I needed them, maybe I can help someone else out. And so the manifest has never been about making money. It's never been the only motive is just to give a hand to someone, and like little things along the way, which I'm sure you've experienced yourself. Like this guy reached out to me. I have this article on male friendships, right? How to develop them and their importance and things like that. This guy reaches out to me. He's like, I'm in my mid 50s. I just made my first friend. I just read your article. It meant so much to me. And like that one email literally was worth the thousands of hours I've spent. Like if I can encourage that one guy who felt alone, and it just like, it meant a lot to me. We interchanged quite a bit. And uh, anyway, it's just little things like that along the way have meant the world to me. So
Yeah, it's a
I'm not
huge
sure if that's a
success too.
good high level.
Well, even to pull one
So
guy out of hell is a pretty big deal, man. Like being able to go like, man, this
yeah,
guy just never had that tool. And it doesn't matter if the guy's 18 or 55. Like, if you don't have the tools, you don't have the
Right.
tools. Like, and so I'm with you.
Right.
There's no judgment on that one.
Yeah. So, like, a interesting story from when I was doing the street photography. I approached this gentleman that I couldn't tell if he was homeless or just very greasy, like maybe a chef or something. And I did my normal, hey, do you have a few minutes? I'm doing a photography project. So I'd just like to ask you one question and then take your portrait. He's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And so I asked him, if you were to describe what it means to be a man, one word, what would it be and why? And he just got super fucking quiet, like really quiet. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just kind of like acted like I was on my phone to give him space. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do when you're talking to someone, they just kind of disappear. And I finally look up from my phone after a couple of minutes and I see he's tearing up. And I'm gonna slaughter verbatim what he said, but essentially he was like, I can't answer your question. He's like, I'm not a man. I lost my wife and my family to the bottle. And like within, a 30-second period and just asking a question, I pierced the veil and this guy just like instantly engaged with his heart. It was amazing, you know? And little things along the way like that also taught me how powerful questions can be. You don't have to teach people things, you just have to ask the right question. Um, and so I've always been obsessed with that as well. So
I
anyway.
like it, man. You got this vision thing. I know what you're talking about, where you can see patterns and catch the perspectives and see things that other people aren't seeing. That's good, man.
Yeah.
You're also adjusting when you get new information. It's already, the right path. That's no question. And I think
Yeah.
that's where I see, this is where I'm going to give testament, because as I'm a fucking professional at what I do. This is what I do all day, every day. I've got 6 recordings today I have to do. Like, this is what I do. And I work with people who are top tier across the world. I work with experts, TED talkers,
Mm-hmm.
authors, speech givers, you name it. I'm talking with
Right.
these people. And a lot of times you're seeing people who have certifications or credentials or whatever, but they're just waiting to give their information, or they're just waiting to give an opinion, and they don't ask questions to be able to teach. They ask questions to just bomb their opinion. It's like,
Correct.
hold on a second. The real testament to a good coach or a good trainer or a good person who's doing what they do is to get that person to discover, not to hit them with the answer. And that's why I
Yeah.
did the video. The answers are not the solutions. And I
Right.
had to learn this the hard way too. Gary Vee did a video where he was talking about, like, give people your stuff for free. Give them your stuff for free. I'm like, I've got books, I've got programs, I do services. I'm like, give it for free? I don't know, Gary Vee. I don't know.
Uh,
But I started realizing when I would do like do it yourself options, that people would, it's like kind of like saying, go to Home Depot, buy all the tools, and then go build a house.
right.
And you're like, well, I have all the right tools and I know what a house is, but I don't know how to build it.
Right. Yeah.
And so do you ask the right questions? Am I teaching the right things? Did they discover their way during the thing? Like, are you doing it? And that's
Right.
cool that you were like, I realized that it wasn't about me telling people how to be a man, but getting to discover where they're at and then helping them discover their way to be one.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Warrior, thank you so much for being a part of the information that we have. And you're part of our story as we are a part of yours. It's very much an honor to be able to connect with each other. If you want to know more, or you want to get started with working with me or working with our warriors so that you can begin your path to authenticity, strength, leadership, and accountability, this is the way. Together, we are way stronger. Now you get to choose. Do you go forward or keep doing what you've always done? If you stay where you're at, hey, click on some of the stuff and follow what it is. We got motivational stuff. We've got podcasts. We've got more things. Just subscribe and do the stuff, and we'll keep you updated. But if you want to start going in, start jumping into what our programs offer and start your journey and being the hero in your own story.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the fact, like, piercing that veil on the street with someone randomly in a public area, It's just like, when you have more time to dig it, like I love questions. Oh my God, absolutely. It's such a great way to get people to rethink. And like, another good example, among many conversations, I hear guys tell me about their dreams and ambitions. And I'm like, so why aren't you taking action on these? And they just have this long list of excuses. And then I propose to them that those aren't actually their dreams. Because I'm like, if they were actually your dreams and ambitions, you would take action. You would feel that fire. And it's a fun, like, I'm like, is this your trophy? This idea in your head, is this your safety blanket saying that you have a dream and ambition? That kind of angle. I've had a lot of conversations like that. And yeah, it's fun. I like it.
Yeah. It's warrior talk. You're doing this is my field. I'm with you on this one. We're speaking the same language. What are you going to do? What's the action behind it? The body side, warrior side is going to be like, how are we going to handle it? What's the tactics you're using? Is there any action behind this? Are you going to go? Or are you going to sit? What are you going to do? Are you going to fight? Or you're going to cry? Where are you going with this? What are you doing? Like, what are we doing about it? How are we going to go? Necessary part. And a lot of people are, this is why I have success that I have. A lot of people have never trained the warrior part of them. They may be heart side. They may be high spirit side. They may be even thinkers, and they listen to a million podcasts, read 1,000 books, and then they're going to sit there and go, why is it not happening? It's like, because it's not information, it's action. You need to do something with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. You could be inundated with every advice in the world of what to do with your life, but it doesn't matter if you're not doing anything with it.
Right.
Like, go smash your head on a wall, like trying, and then get back to me.
Well, instant gratification society makes it really difficult. That's for sure. Like, so I had a dream, Timothy. I had a dream. Where is it? You're like, well, you have to move toward it.
Yeah.
I prayed for a deposit. Why didn't God just give me $1 million? Well, you had 6 opportunities show up to learn some new stuff, to get a new career or start a business. But did you do any of them? Well, no, I just wanted a deposit. I didn't want opportunities.
Right. I mean, if we're going to go the Christian route, I've met and was raised in that space. Many people wait for God to change their life. And I didn't partake in that philosophy. I believe that God would align and help you when you were moving, rather than sitting stagnant, waiting for him to do everything for you.
Found the same thing. I found the same way. Listen, the spirit side, the faith side, I didn't even open up until the last couple of years. Like, so I was heavy psychology, heavy philosophy, heavy action oriented. That's only 2 parts, or at least the 4 main parts. And there's a whole bunch of between. But like, even just going like, okay, I got the information, let's do action. Like, that's one part of it. But the faith side of it, the spirit side of it, I was a guy who would read the Bible to tear you apart with it. Like, I was, you want to get into it? Let's get into it. Like, I was that guy before I understood, like, how does God work? How does it work? My relationship with God's very different now, but I was very much on the this is ridiculous side because I didn't understand it. I was blocked off. I was closed off to that area. But the way I found it works is that God, there's a rule here. Just if you look at the thing, what makes humans different than all the other creatures? Well, even throughout all of the stories, all of them, free will is the game. Like, let's just look at the rules. We have the freedom of choice. We get free will. What are you going to do? You have unlimited options and very limited amount of information that you have the ability to process. We don't understand very much, but we can choose to do anything with it. What a weird game. What a weird game to begin with. So whenever I would do a prayer, I would very quickly realize God didn't give me what I wanted. He gave me what I needed. And people don't like that. That's why you've heard people say, don't pray for patience, because you're going to be in some shit that tests your patience. It's going to happen that way. If you want something, it's going to come in the choice aspect. You want more money? He's going to give you opportunity to learn new skills, change your location, get a new job, do something completely different. Opportunities will show up. Well, now I have to choose if I'm going to take them or not. Am I going to do the work or am I not? Am I going to put action in, or am I going to sit here and go, I prayed for a deposit? He's like, I gave you 3 opportunities for different jobs. They all pay better.
Yeah.
You just got to learn new skills. You pray for wisdom. You mess around. You want to pray for wisdom? What teaches you fastest, winning or losing?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You want to learn fast? Guess what you're going to get a whole bunch of? Your butt kicked. Because you pay attention 10 times faster when you're getting your butt kicked than when you're winning.
Oh yeah. The amount of self-exposure that comes through failures.
Mm-hmm. It's triple XP, man. You're going to learn way faster doing it this way. You're going to be like, so you prayed for wisdom, get ready to get your butt kicked because you're going to learn real quick. And I messed around. I was like, give me wisdom. Show me how to be a good leader. And then I had a whole bunch of stuff in my leadership and a whole bunch of stuff go really, really wrong. Lost a bunch of money. Things went terrible. And I'm like, lessons learned. Holy mackerel. Okay, I have to level up in all these areas. Whoa. And this is a part of that. So what are you going to do about it? That's that warrior side where you're like, do you see the action? Do you see what you're going to do about it? What are you going to choose to do? How are you going to handle it? And now, this is by no means me doing a convert to Christianity thing. Choose your route for your spirit side. I don't care. You know, you do law of attraction, law of vibration, manifestation, you know, meditation. Pick your thing. God made them all. I don't care. Do your style. But what you're focusing on is still going to have a series of choice behind it. So what are you going to choose to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious too on what your experience has been working with men. My observation from my own life, but also from many men I've met and worked with, is a lack of clarity of what they actually want in life. And I'll call it their ideal man, right? Connecting with this person. And so, if you're, I would say the spiritual side definitely influences that, right? If you embrace spirituality or not. But I'm trying to think of a recent example of someone that had met me through my website. He reached out to me. He's a younger guy in college still, doesn't even know why he's in his degree, doesn't know what he's going to do with his life. And he feels unsuccessful. And I was like, well, you feel unsuccessful because you have no idea what you want in life and you have no drive. And so I was telling him some people are gifted with clarity of what they want in their life, and there's some people who aren't. And the people who aren't have to work at it and spend time working at it. Right. I had a friend who, when he was 8, knew exactly what he wanted, and he's exactly that now, you know? And then there's Tim over here who's spent years developing and adjusting as he shoots towards this goal, developing that ideal man that he likes and who he sees developing, you know? And so I just don't like seeing guys stuck in that darkness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a 2-part thing that I found in there. You know, the ideal man, and then what do you want? Even in the first program that I've got here, what do you want isn't even until section 12. The reason why is because it makes sense that guys don't know what they want. It makes sense that most people don't know what they want. Let's just take a look at the system. Okay. How long are you told what you're supposed to do? I got parents, then I got teachers, then I got coaches, and then I've got bosses, and then I got spouses, and somebody's always telling me, here's what you need to do next. Here's what you need to do next. Here's what you need to do. Here's the assignment. Here's the thing. Here's what you got to do next. Here's the job. Here's the thing. You're always told what you're supposed to do. Heaven forbid any of my guys go in the military. They're given orders every day. You got to be up at this time. Got to make sure things are this way. You got to take care of this. You got to be there on mission. Make sure this is done correctly. This is the parameters. Like, you're told what to do always, every day, all the time. And then at certain points you go, now I need you to do this to take care of what they need. And so now you're like, well, what do you need? How can I take care of you? I got to take care of your stuff. What do you need? What do you need? All right, I'm helping them people. So now not only am I being told what to do, now I'm doing everything to help everybody else get what they want. At what point were you supposed to learn that muscle? Because now guys get some time. They go like, well, what do you want? And they're like, fuck if I know. I've always been told what to do, or I just take care of everybody else. I don't know. And so it makes perfect sense that guys have no idea what that is. Now let's go to the ideal male. What's a good man? What's a real man supposed to be? We do an exercise called the chimera. It's like a Frankenstein. You build your own version. take the traits from the guys that you know that you admired traits from. No guy is perfect. No guy has it all. Take the traits that you like. I like the way that this guy handles things. I like the way that this guy handles his finances and his business and he does his thing. I like the jokes that this guy does and his energy and his humor that he brings. I like this guy's work ethic. I like this guy's, like, you put your Frankenstein together of like, this guy's really patient. I wish I was more like that. Just take traits and then you Frankenstein your own chimera together. This creature that doesn't really exist, that has traits that you really admire. And now you make that your version of, this is the kind of man I'd like to be, you know? And so you take it from all kinds of stuff. It could be Brad Pitt and Fight Club and Jesus. Like, you can start putting all these things together. You got your Tyler Durden and Jesus and one Frankenstein here. Start putting all these things together and then go, that's the kind of guy I'd like to be. It's a good man. That's the guy I want to be. Because if we're going only off of who we know, we very rarely have positive role models that we can really admire. You know, if I take on the traits of my father, you know, I'm going to become a guy I don't want to be, you know, and not that, you know, I'm not trying to dog on my dad. It's just, that's not the kind of man I want to be. That's not me. That's him. That's not me. And so I can take traits that he works really, really hard and he's dedicated at his job. I can take that trait though. Like, okay, I like that piece. You know, my stepdad, highly patient, very patient man. I'm like, I like that trait. The way he uses it, he's a saint. I'm like, I don't have that fortitude. I need more of that. You know, and you look at different guys. You look at Timothy. I'm like, Timothy's got that sight. He can see, pays attention. He's looking deep. I need more of that trait. I need to be higher awareness. I need more of how Timothy does it. You know, and so you take these traits of guys that you know and you put it together. That's an ideal guy. So now at least I have a target to aim for, because if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Yeah. And is that an exercise you take people through?
Yes.
Because it sounds very complementary to an exercise I do where I take them through a guided meditation, in essence, of a blank room. And then I start asking them a list of questions to develop this ideal man.
Perfect.
Which essentially is pulling from the same thing, but it's not.
You gotta do your style.
Factors.
We're different warrior styles.
They sound very similar.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I don't do meditation in our stuff. My side doesn't go, because it's not spirit. I'm cognitive. So all my stuff goes cognitive behavior. And then we do things that's in real time. You see what's happening, raise your awareness. How are you going to handle it in real time? Are you reacting, responding? Let's go through all the different things. Remember your training. What kind of attack is this? Is this doubt? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it depression, anxiety? What things happening? We know how to beat them. Remember your training. This is in real time. And so a lot of times things will blow up and you don't get a chance to meditate in real time. And so you're like, hold on, let me get a game plan here. Let me use my tools. Let me use my training. And so I go far more that way, but it's not to say there's not a time to be able to go into the subconscious through meditation and guided meditation. It's just not my warrior style, but it doesn't mean it's not effective. It's just, you're like, it's highly effective. It sure works for Dr. Joe Dispenza. And that guy's on the mind side, you know? So it's not to say there's no value. It's just it's not my warrior type, but you're like, that's how I do it. Still the same thing. We're both doing the same type of thing. It's just some guys dig the meditation. Some guys don't. The ones who do, go hang with Tim. The ones who don't, go hang with Rick. We're both doing the same thing.
You still get to the same point. Yeah.
It's just which style you like. That's what's beautiful. That's what's beautiful about it.
I like that. I haven't heard of that style.
Yeah.
So I like it.
It all works. And this is where this is where you're going to find probably a lot of overlap, because if you're doing a good job, you're going to find overlap. You know, it's the same thing where I would do breakdowns on different words or figure things out. And then 2 weeks later or 2 months later, I'll be reading philosophy and found that my answer was the same as Socrates. Holy shit. I didn't read him yet, but I got the same answer 2 months before I even read this thing. Awesome. I feel good because I got the same spot as Socrates or, you know, Aristotle or, you know, Epictetus or something. I'm like, I'm at the same answer he did. Yeah. You know?
Yes. Yeah. That's
so
like reading a book and someone articulating something in a way that you're like, that's what I was thinking, but you didn't know how to articulate it. But it's literally what you were thinking.
It's actually really funny in my program. One of my head coaches, Dross, he's in Australia. And we've gone through this program so many times. He's even helped me edit it to clear, like to make it more condensed, because it was way too broad at first. It would take too long. And so we've even condensed it down, and he's on his journey. He's always reading, always gathering information. And he's like, I'll read sometimes and I'll find something profound and powerful. And I'm like, this needs to be in the program. And he'll go back in to see where in the section he would put it. And he'll go, well, son of a bitch, it was here the whole time. Rick was way ahead of it. Well, I just missed it completely. Like, I've gone through this 10 times and I missed that. How did I miss that? Like, it's those things where we keep going at different levels or finding our spots. It's pretty awesome, man. Yeah, but I like that. I got a question for you. You asked that guy, the homeless guy, what does it mean to be a man? What was your most common response?
Man, I have a spreadsheet somewhere with the answer, because I think I interviewed over 300 people, so I couldn't. I used to have a good call on that, but it was usually like around integrity type of attributes. That was generally, it was like integrity or safe, those type of auxiliary words around that. I would notice, which I was deeply surprised by, to be honest, because I expected more people to be volatile about masculinity when I went out into public, because at that time it seemed like everyone was upset about toxic masculinity, right?
Because that's your algorithms talking.
10 years ago. Yeah, right. But that's what I mean. And so out of like the hundreds of people I interacted with, I only had 2 that were quite upset about it, and they weren't that big of upsets either, if that makes sense. They were just like, nah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because if you had an algorithm that says people are all in it, because I didn't have the toxic masculinity algorithm, like I wasn't in that. I wasn't going to be like, if you have what's a real man question, I would be like, real men are fucking bastards. Like I wasn't in that. I don't know. I was like, that's not a real thing. Real dudes, like, we sacrifice, we give, we take care of people, we look out for our own. Like, I wouldn't have gone into this toxic answer.
Yeah, but even then, that's considered toxic masculinity in a lot of respects.
I'm very curious on what you mean, because what do you mean? Because it's a judgment.
Yes, it's just they think it's. I would say there's a sect that anything that propagates traditional masculinity is toxic masculinity.
But here's the thing that you probably noticed, and I heard this. I had Miriam Belcher I'll be talking to too, and she talks about, because she works with feminine energy for women. And she was talking about, if you're seeing a lot of judgments, like a lot of heavy judgments, usually this is an indicator of somebody who's wounded in their areas. They're wounded feminine, wounded masculine. I'm not big on polarity, but it does exist, so it's not my coaching style, but like there is some fact to it. We do have a role that makes us feel fulfilled as humans. Cool. What is it? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Pick your thing. And I don't fall into like, well, look at the chart. You're being feminine today, Timothy. Like, that's not a thing. It's just like you like painting, whatever. Like, it's not a big deal, but it's just one of those things where like there is a thing in there. Now, if somebody's doing judgment, well, you're toxic, you're bad. Most likely you're judging because there's a wound in there that you're not dealing with, and you're projecting everyone needs to change around you because you're not okay. Because happy people don't hurt people. But hurt people are out to cause harm, because hurt people hurt people. And so if you say, hey, I feel like I'm a good protector and I want to keep you safe, and you go, that's toxic. You're like, we're judging immediately. What's hurting inside of you to make it so somebody who would protect you is judged negatively?
Right. Yeah. No, that's very fascinating. I couldn't disagree with it. I like it. Yes, definitely triggers and of woundings for sure.
I'd love to hear.
The problem with like writing and having things out publicly too is trying to pierce the veil of people who I feel could benefit from this, right? And writing it in a way that they like. I could write how I speak, and there would be a lot of cuss words, and generally that will probably scare away some people, right? So I don't write necessarily how I speak, because I'm like, I want Christians to read this, or Mormons, or whoever.
Do you think
right?
that Christians aren't allowed to swear?
I think Protestant Christians are strongly adverse to swearing.
What do they read for their religion? Is it the Bible?
I guess.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's do a thing. I love the Bible. I'm a Christian. You know who I follow? Christ.
Mhm.
Because I'm a Christian. I listen to Jesus. All right. Where's Jesus at? Well, he starts in Matthew. Let's hang out in Matthew for a second. One thing I like to do, if anybody wants to get really shitty about like religion and they want to use this book as a weapon. This is an attack book. Like, okay, I'll just go to the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus worked on that for a minute. He's very strategic in what he says, and just read just chapter 7 in Matthew. This is when he's doing his speech. Well, the very first thing, and this is the NLT, there's 20 versions, pick King James, whatever you want to do.
20
It's the
million.
same. It's the same concept still. The concept is still the same. It's just worded differently. All right, starts off, chapter 7. Do not judge others, and you will not be judged, for you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard in which is standard by which you will be judged. You know, and then he gets into the don't judge a speck in my eye when you have a whole log in your eye and all of that stuff, right? Well, don't judge people. That's Jesus. Jesus is saying, don't judge everybody. So if someone says shit, fuck, or balls, you are not in the place to say you're going to hell, you're bad, you're wrong. They're just words. Let God sort it out.
Yeah.
That's his job, not your job. Jesus himself said, don't judge people unless you want people to judge you. But that's not your job. Your job isn't to be here judging everybody. In fact, it just makes you look not that cool. You're not nice. You're being mean. You're going to hell. You're a terrible person. Do you think that's Jesus? Jesus worked with the sick, not only the good people. All right, let's keep going. End of chapter 7. It starts getting into the not true disciples aspect of stuff. So not everyone who calls out to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of my Father in heaven will enter. On judgment day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and performed many miracles in your name. But I will reply, I never knew you. Get away from me, you who breaks God's laws. This is the people who walk around and say, Timothy, you said fuck, so you're going to hell. You're a terrible person. You're a bad guy. And he's going to see, I told Timothy he's bad. I said he's going to hell. He's the worst. And God's going to go like, you're not one of mine, man. I said, do not do that shit. Don't do that. Not cool. Now let's go into the reality of where we're at right now. So many people are trying to adhere to the people who judge. This is the Karens and the Kyles who come into the store and they complain, and you change policy for the one person who's never going to shop there again and ruin the entire dynamic of the place.
Yeah.
People are starving right now for authenticity.
Yeah.
They're starving for you to be real. Don't be fake on paper. Don't hold back your authenticity. If you say bad words is a judgment and subjective. But if I told you, let me just give you an example for words and how fun they are. If I said, Timothy, you're one of the best fucking dudes I've ever met in my life. Like you are seriously the fucking man. Now, does that hurt your feelings versus me saying, you're a pretty worthless dude and you're a terrible coach? One of those has swear words and one of them does not. Which one is nicer?
Right. Yeah. Words. Yes. Yeah.
So which one is worse? I said, you're the fucking man, or I said, you're worthless and you're not good at what you do. One has swear words, but which one felt better?
Well, obviously the compliment. For sure.
That's what I'm saying is people are so quick to judge, but it's just a word. It's a word. That's it.
Right. But what you're touching on is the barriers that people have either through their belief system. Well, I guess wokeism is a belief structure too. And that's the veil that I'm trying to pierce in my writings, right? And by asking questions and get there. So I'm curious, like, sure, I could intertwine how I speak more. I think I still do a pretty good job of writing how I speak, right? But I'm trying to get beyond, like, I noticed if I, rather than writing about to men, even though everything I write is really intentionally for men, but if I just write towards people, then it breaks that veil of some people's perceived issues, which is funny because it's really changing like a couple little words, right?
Yeah.
And then if I change a cuss word to just something more expressive in a different way, it still serves the same purpose.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And so it's I mean, fuck, you can say 30 different ways. So it's a little hard to replace.
It's a what a versatile word.
It's an amazing word. But over the years of getting lots of feedback, I found I got more feedback than compliments as I got more traction.
Yeah.
And so I just learned way more and more ways to get around these very stupid things, I would say. But I don't know.
This maybe brings me to the question, like you're talking about target audience here, and you said like the wokeism stuff. Like, are you trying to appeal to the woke audience? Is that like the idea? I don't know what where you're aiming at. Which part are you trying to get into?
No, what I'm saying there is like I don't want people who may find masculinity to be toxic in their mindset to be held back by reading my material.
Well, doesn't that mean you're holding yourself back based on people who judge masculinity?
Could you rephrase that?
Well, you said I don't want to come off in a way that people who are like, that's toxic masculinity. You don't want to trigger them in some way, shape, or form. So doesn't that mean you're doing a form of self-censoring for people who can't seem to handle the information yet?
That could be. I think on some levels. It's been a while since I've written, so I can't be super honest in that respect of a recent piece. I do know I've written a few pieces on masculinity out of anger of the content that exists. Sure. I'm like, no, this is what a fucking man is. So I've definitely done that.
Well, wouldn't integrity was one of the most common answers? Like if integrity, like I'm gonna do what is right, even if it's unpopular, even if it's not going to be acceptable, even if it's, it goes in the face of who is right. I'm going to do what is right. And if most guys say integrity is one of the main things that make a man, wouldn't this be one of those challenges for like, I understand you may not like the truth, but I still have to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think how I've avoided that is just not by touching on certain topics and more focusing on emotional intelligence.
Sounds
I think
good.
that's probably
wouldn't going into some of the untouchable topics and showing people how to handle it be a better way?
It could be. Yeah. No, it's definitely, I haven't thought about the content that I wrote previously because it's been a couple years since I've created content because I focused on writing a book and business and stuff.
Yeah, and dude, I juggle. I get it. I'm on second book this year. I'm with you. Like I juggle. I'm with you.
Oh man, I'm like, I love it though. I love the idea of leaving a legacy, right? And like leaving tools for people, even though I'll be dead. Like
it's cool, right? They can still hear your thoughts where you were at this age when you're gone. Even more fun.
AI. Yeah,
even more fun is when you evolve out of the space that you're at right now. Like, I'm going to be republishing my first book because now I read where I was, 7 years ago. And I'm like, I can kick the shit out of this book. Like this book is missing so many pieces. I'm like, so I'm going to be republishing it with like 3 new chapters. Cause I'm like, this was 1 page and that should be a whole book. I'm like, this needs to be expanded, so it's those kind of things too, you're going to evolve out of the thought process you're in now, which is just a really cool part of the evolution.
It's like a public journal. Yeah. And all I do is go back and cringe.
Yeah, it is. Because I'll read my own book and I'm like, it's the answer's right, but man, was I missing the 4 steps between. Damn.
You're like, oh yeah. That's why I just push myself to get stuff published and going on the website or whatever, just because I'm like, I know I will sit there for hours and days and months just critiquing it.
Yeah.
So
listen, that's why I like doing live improv and just let's shoot for it. Cause whatever, you know what, like it or hate it, and there's so many things that people want to try and change themselves to be what they think other people want them to be. But where does that fall under integrity or authenticity? Where does it fall that you can actually be you without feeling like somebody's going to tell you it's wrong? Right. Go ahead. Tell me what I am is wrong. It's not for you. And that's okay. Yeah. Like even our TikTok at this point, at this stage in the game, I think we're at like, I don't know, like 50 to 60 million views, 280,000 followers. I don't even mess with the comment section very often, man. I don't care.
Mm.
You know, it could be 2 million people. It's the same. It's what it is. If I start changing who I am and being something different, or I start changing my delivery, my personality, who I am as a human being, if I start changing that because other people don't like it, well, then where is authenticity? Where's my evolution versus just conforming? Where do you think the
Yeah.
line is for that?
Yeah. I wonder how much conforming is present through silence. Even if you may not at home believe or conform in your personal life, but being silent about it is, yeah.
It's a tricky line. Are you being stoic or are you retreating?
No, yeah, it's it's a frustration I have of, for sure, in my own personal life.
Yeah, what's the challenge with that? I'm curious. You got me peaked.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I've watched the trend in the manosphere, a lot of the red pill stuff emerging and getting more deeply rooted. And then what's interesting too now recently is it looks like traditional relationships are having a reemergence. People are pushing it harder, counterculturally, and I like that. So it's fun for me to observe these things. It just makes me sometimes I'm a little bummed that I'm not more a part of that.
Well, you just talked about action. What are you missing, bro?
I don't know.
Now you just saw the thing.
Yeah, no, it's getting back on the train of my project. It's been years. I literally met my wife because of my project, The Man Effect.
That's awesome.
Like, and so it's always been a source of life and richness for me. And so it's weird for me to have stepped away from it for like 2 years and worked on a book and my business. And so I'm just like, I just need to get back on the horse. I think that's what I've been missing. So that's why it was fun when you guys reached out. I was like, oh yeah, podcasts. I remember these things.
When you hang out with other people who are having momentum or on mission, it reinvigorates you to have yours too. Remember the whole concept of like you are the average of who you hang out with the most. If you and I talked every day, you'd be back on mission, man. You'd be posting 4 times a week. You just hang out with people who are like, let's go. And you're like, yes.
Yeah. I'm so pumped though. I'm almost done with my book. I've spent 5 years developing my method, spent 2 years writing it, hiring publishers, all of this. And it's like, it's my stick in or my knife in the side of self-help community because it's not opinionated. It's just a tool that's there to equip people through life. And I'm so excited about that.
Plug it. Let's hear your book. Tell them about why would people want this book. It's going to come out. Why they want to be on a waiting list when Timothy drops this book. What is it about? Feel like, man, get us excited. Give me the sales pitch on this thing. This book is going to give you what? It's a tool that does what? Like, I want to know.
Nice. So I coined the term the coping tax. That's the name of the book, right? And the foundation of this whole thesis is identifying areas in our life where we're paying a coping tax. Now, what I mean by that is a very simple example is you are working a job that you absolutely hate, right? And how is this impacting your finances, your relationships, your mental health, your physical health, all of these areas, right? So an easy way to quantify that is some dude's making, let's say, 150K a year. He hates his job. He doesn't have time for his family. He doesn't have time for his partners. He's gone through multiple relationships, and how he's coping financially is he's spending all his money on hookers and blow, right? And so really he's only making $75,000 a year because he's wasting all his money coping, right? And his health is taking a hit, his relations, his mental health. So if you're able to quantify how this one spectrum of your life that you're unsatisfied with, how would that motivate you, right, to change that thing? And so I go in depth on identifying these parts of your life, right? And then I go into internal and external influences, right? Like, why did you end up here, right? Was it how you were raised, right? Are you in an abusive relationship because your parents had an abusive relationship? Are you like spiritually, like how did you grow up? Did you grow up poor? Did you grow up rich? Did you grow up firstborn? Did you grow up the lastborn? Like, are you the oldest or youngest? Like, what are all these things that are influence how you think and why you think and how you make these decisions, right? And then what are your values and your vision for life? Okay, so we've identified the pain, how you've arrived there. We've identified where you want to go. So now, how do we lessen this burden, this coping that's going on, to help you get to where you want to go? And maybe some of this pain needs to be endured for a year. Maybe you have to stay at that job for a year to save up some money. But once you have your values and visions in clarity, right? It gives purpose to this pain, right? It's like working out, right? If you want to get in shape, you have to go through pain to get there, right? And so it aligns with your visions and values. You push yourself. So I'm really excited about it because it's not opinion. Like I share some of my story, but I just help people think through all these things, and it's a reference point of like you can come back to it because it's your life, and then you get to make your decisions. I'm not telling you have to do fucking anything, right? This is just like, hey, did you think like maybe since you're the youngest born, which I am, that you always want your siblings and your parents to recognize you because you weren't recognized as a child because they were busy, right? Are you always striving to be recognized? Yeah. Oh shit, that's part of my shadow, like this is part of anyway. So I really like it, and I'm excited to get it out of my brain because it was eating the insides of my brain for 5 years. Um, so hopefully in the next couple months I'll get it up and going. So been really excited about it.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And it's cool that my first book, I did the same thing. I made it as indifferent as I could. I removed 100 pages to make sure there's no opinions. I'm like, this is just what is.
Yes.
Make the choice you want. So I'm in alignment with you. This next book has best practices and things that's worked over the years. So there are opinions in this next one because I'm like, here's what you can do that's worked the best. So like there's options. But I got a question for you because I also get far into coping mechanisms also. What are your categories so people can go to, well, how do I know if I'm doing a coping mechanism? What are your categories that are like, these are the different areas that your people cope this way. So you can know, well, hey, if you get my book, I'm going to explain, here's some of the systems you may be operating under to give them a kind of a, see, you're doing it.
Right. Yeah. So like financially easy ones are like seeing, are you going out a lot even just to like fulfill your relationships and time? And are you wasting a bunch of money just to show off? Right. Because of your insecurities. But like that's a really easy one. Like, I make $5,000 a month and I'm spending $4,000 a month on going out to eat and buying all my friends drinks, right? Because I'm trying to compensate and cope for my reality. That's a little far stretched, but people living in houses they can't afford, empty houses with no furniture, driving a car you can't afford, um, just to show off. But that's kind of hard. The financial ones, there's some like weird motivations there. Relationships, man, relationships. I don't like the impacts between all of these. I call them the pillars, right? Like your finances, your relationships, your mental health, your
Health,
physical
wealth, love,
health,
happiness,
blah,
for sure. Yeah.
right, right.
Yep.
So it's like they all kind of like cross over, right? Because it's like if you have a shitty job, you could compensate with money, but you might compensate with just going home and eating yourself in the couch and smoking a ton of weed, right? And playing video games and being completely antisocial and depressed, right? So you're impacting your physical, your mental, and relational. That's where the negative impact is occurring, right? But your bank account could still be fine. Or, yeah, I don't know. The coping tax is more of like an unnecessary burden, I guess would be an easier way of putting it. Maybe not necessarily like them directly doing hookers and blow, right?
Yeah, not a lot of people are out doing hookers and blow. It's not that common. Most people are just drinking or emotionally eating.
I mean, but for real, and just what's the word? Marinating in their unhappiness, yeah. Oh, So like myself, with the example I used, I worked with my brother. I helped him build his business. He was an electrical contractor. We were up to like 40 employees, but it was his business. It wasn't mine. I didn't like the industry. I was good at it, but it took me years to be ready to jump the ship, even though I didn't have a clear vision of where I wanted to go. And I mean, I was angry, like didn't want to be around my family, struggling to be in a relationship, not really doing that well that financially because it was in the early years, so I was just an apprentice making like what, $15 an hour or some bullshit, working my way up. And man, the second I left, I was pretty much instantly broke, but the weight was lifted. I like loved my family more, wanted to be around people more. Like it was just it's just amazing how these little things instantly the burdens are lifted and you're not like sitting there and negatively impacting all these different arenas. So I don't think that directly answered your question, but I think it kind of went in
kind of, but
direction.
kind of not. You're not wrong.
So
You listen.
I'm
I can share because I'm a deep thinker on this
please.
stuff. I don't want to put another year on your book where you're like, fuck, yeah, I got to add that shit. But I will tell you where I found. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I found when it came to coping. Coping is actually associated more to your grief cycle than anything else. This is what we do when we don't have control. Like we have to learn how to deal when we can't do anything about it. So coping mechanisms come into like, I don't have control of the situation. How am I going to handle this? Most of our coping mechanisms were created when we were children because we didn't have control. So how do I get through the scenario? So let's go with your grieving cycle. The grieving cycle is not something I made up. It's been around for a long time. Now you got your 7 stages of grief, but I really break it down to 4. Denial, bargaining, anger, depression. Those are like the main ones people are going to get stuck in. We got to work towards acceptance, which really, technically it's 5. Okay. So first, denial. Denial in association to the warrior's way aspect of denial is retreat. This is hide. It's suppress. This means I don't want to deal with this shit. I don't want to pay attention to it. I'm out of here. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not into it. Deny. I don't want to be a part of this. And so a lot of times, especially for men, and denial is the meanest one of all. I'm just putting it out there. Men suppress. Push your feelings down. Don't talk about it. I'm not going to go there. Push it down. Push it down. No one cares about your feelings anyways. Well, suppression leads to expression, which we'll get to in a second. The other aspect of the suppression or retreat or hide is the mask that you just said. Now, with denial, it goes into one of the enemies within, which is distractions. And you mentioned that, one of the masks is if you get Lewis House, he gets into the masks that people wear. And one of them that you mentioned is the material mask, show off, try and live beyond your means, flex with your car or your watch or your house or whatever it is. There's a cost to it. You're not wrong. There is a tax to this. Trying to be the Joneses or keep up with the Joneses does make it so it's very stressful. You're being inauthentic. You're not being yourself, and there's a price to it. It costs you. But if you also go the other direction, you have your denial of I do not want to deal with this reality. I'm at the war with what is. Well, combine that with distractions. Distractions comes into your positive part of your feelings. I just need to feel good. Distractions makes you feel good. It's a dopamine rush. I need to feel good. Right. Well, what makes you feel good? It can be something simple like eating sweets. It can be something simple like drinking to numb the pain of the reality I don't want to face. It can be, smoking weed. It can be isolating. It can be doing all of these things, playing video games, watching Netflix all day, scrolling social media for hours, or jerking off 9 times a day to porn. Pick your poison. Right. All of them are a thing to try to feel good at whatever cost. And so if that's the case, well, if I'm taking my denial and my coping is to retreat, hide, run away, or create a persona or a mask, if I'm doing something to not deal with it and mix that in with I want to feel good, and since I don't feel good, give me as much feel good as I can handle, well, that's the recipe for addiction. So that coping mechanism is how you create addiction. And to break it, we have to go through the denial that you don't want to face. Well, let's go into the next one. Next will be bargaining. Well, bargaining goes into the negotiation aspect of things. This is your people who over-explain and talk over and interrupt and over. How can I compromise? And how do I make it work? And what can I do for peace here? And you just tell me, like, hold on, just listen to me. Just listen to me. Just listen to me. And they just won't listen to anyone else. These are your people who have to use the words for damage control. And the way they control is by controlling control. The negotiators, they're going to talk their ass off. That's how they cope with. I'm not in control. How do I get it back? Let me just talk my way through it.
Good.
All right, let's go into the obvious. Anger. Anger is attack. These are the people who are going to make themselves big, loud, aggressive. The best defense is a good offense. And they're going to start tearing people down to make it so that they can create some sense of confidence or control. But the thing is with anger is it's a gamble. Sometimes it pays off and sometimes you lose. And if you lose, people don't want to be near you. Even if you do win, sometimes people are like, dude, you're fucking crazy. I don't want to be near you. But then you got depression. Depression is surrender. I give up. I quit. I'm not fighting anymore. Whatever you want to do. I'm not even involved. Do whatever. Do whatever. I quit. Not fighting. That's surrender. Well, these coping mechanisms all have a cost. There's a price tag to it. Heck, even the other day, I woke up in the middle of the night, I wrote out some things. If suppression leads to expression, this means denial leads to a form of explosion. The more you keep being something else, there's going to be some point it cracks or blows. Well, denial is not free. It's expensive. It takes your life away from you. So the cost of denial means it's you. You lose authenticity. You're not you. Okay. Negotiation is the over-explaining, compromising, interrupting, answering questions with questions, deflection. It's a clever use of like scenarios in a fantasy. But it means the win means that we all win is the fantasy, but the cost of trying to have to be right all the time is you're going to lose connection. People don't want to talk to somebody who won't listen or is in a fantasy world about their stuff. With anger, it's going to be dominance and louder and false sense of confidence. But this expression to try to be justified with respect or strength or power or protection, well, it's a gamble, and the cost to that is closeness. People don't want to be near you. It's a separator. People want to be away from angry people. Surrender is give up. It's an unhealthy version of surrender, not the healthy version of surrender for grace and forgiveness. No, this is the part where I give up. I got no fight. Well, if that's the case, well, then oftentimes it's revealed as, the sad guy who makes himself small in the corner. That guy provokes attack. Bullies pick the weak ones. And so like it makes it so it opens you up for aggression. It looks like weakness, and it puts you in your own prison inside your own heart and your mind, in which case you feel trapped inside of your own, ability to have action or be worthy or do anything. Well, what's the cost? It's freedom, man. You create a prison around yourself and call it protection. So these coping mechanisms I'm well aware of, and there's categories within all of those. It's like, this is how we cope, and you're not wrong. Each one of them has a cost. So that's what my coping tax is. I'm like, there's a price tag here, bro. You don't get to do that for free.
It is a long, deep rabbit hole, and it's so specific to everyone because every scenario, the foundation of their life and how they're structured is quite different. Sure, there are variables that seem similar for some, but it's still like it's up to you and I as individuals to unravel our mess and figure out what the fuck's going on in us and make decisions from that standpoint. Like I love the standpoint of grief. I see exactly how you're tying that in. And I feel like it's self-perpetuated grief, though, because they're accepting the reality that they can't change it. So then they're grieving the reality which they've accepted. And it's this like...
That's using denial as acceptance, which is part of denial's tactics, is to be the Trojan horse that actually you're good and you're fine and you got it. But a lot of times it's like saying you're good, it's fine to not go into bargaining, anger, and depression because you're already good.
Yeah.
That's denial being acceptance. It's so funny. It's clever.
Yeah, it's the classic. The other good one is like the the terminology golden handcuffs, right? Like the job that pays really good, but you hate it. It's like it's the same stuff. Like, oh, so you're telling me you're incapable of finding a better situation, that you're just this one buck chuck. Like this is all the thing you can do. You have no capability of changing your reality. And like, yeah, it could be a little uncomfortable. You might have to go, like, sure, there's all these things that you have to address, but like, you're incapable. I just don't believe this. Like, come on. I don't know.
There's choices all around us, but we're not trained to see them. That's why we have jobs. It's like awareness is the first tool that I teach people. You can't make a choice that you don't see. You can't, make a decision that you don't know exists. And so if people have blinders on to opportunities, how are they supposed to make decisions to see them? And we talked about if you pray for more money or you pray for freedom, opportunities will show up. But if you're waiting for it just to be given to you and not that you have to do something about it, your warrior is untrained. The side of you that does action is untrained. This is why on my side, the warrior's way is mind, body. There are other types. There's the spirit side, there's heart side. We address, but that's not our training. We're going to be into what's the manual, what's the action. That's us. Now, how do you feel about it? And where's your faith and your belief for your entire spirit system? There's other coaches for that. There's people who get into the meditation, the vibrations, the energy, the esoteric version of being able to feel where do you fit in the universe and all that stuff. Okay, cool. Those guys are great. You need to do that too. That's not what we do, but there is that exists. You have to get a part of that too. So you go to us for this part, go to them for that part. Everybody works together.
So give me a good shock to the system. You meet a guy, he's come to you and he's completely dissatisfied with his career, just his life in a 360. I'm just curious, what's the kind of a foundational shocker to a system that you usually go about?
Well, it depends on what's going on with it, because a lot of times it's not necessarily that situation that he doesn't like. It's that the way his situation that he handles it is what he doesn't like. Epictetus is one of my favorite quotes. This is one that actually built an entire system for coaching on. Your circumstances don't define a man, they reveal him to himself. And so the situation that you have, that's just a thing that's happening. How you're handling it is who you are. Do you like who you are? Because look at how you handle it. You run away from everything. You run to the bottle and you're trying to get away from your reality. So you try and numb yourself so you can get through the damn day and fast forward it to do the next day that you choose again to hate. When there's opportunity all around you and you're untrained to see it. And also you're surrounded with blessings that you worked your ass off to have, but you don't see them because you've never trained gratitude either. And you don't understand how to appreciate because vulnerability has been called weakness in your belief system. And since you believe that being vulnerable is weak, you do not know how to show authentic heart side appreciation to your people that you love because you've suppressed your heart side so damn far that even the idea of crying is considered pathetic or weak or you're being a bitch. In which case, you have to convert crying into the only emotion that at least gives you the perception that you at least have some sort of control, which is anger. And anger at least looks like you are confident because you're screaming and making yourself bigger. So he must know what he wants, when really anger is how you cry because you convert it all into anger. Well, in love, anger doesn't work so well. So now anger turns into shame because no one wants to be around you who you love the most because you're a hothead. So here you are now in complete, just suppress everything denial. You're not facing your reality of who you are. You're doing things that you feel like you have to do because you can't even see beyond your own pain to choose a different option, even though you're surrounded by them. So let's go ahead and rework your entire awareness system, renovate and tear out belief systems that make you feel stuck, pathetic, weak, or not good enough because doubt is beatable. Let's go ahead and do that, find out who you really are, and then start making some choices about being authentic based on what it is you really like or really are worth doing instead of what everybody else has told you it is. We can start there.
I like that. And is that a common scenario that you people coming to you are
Absolutely, dude. We're the society part is crazy. I actually do want to get into some society part just for our conversation. I feel like we're in different algorithms, and I'm fascinated by just seeing your point of view on things. The toxic masculinity judgment. I gotta admit, man, I don't plug in too far to this stuff. It's just what's working, what's not working is more important to me. But I don't know as much about the judgment aspect of what people are calling toxic. Because you even mentioned a guy saying I'm a protector or a provider, and people are judging that as toxic. I don't understand it. I really would like to hear more of like, well, I've seen people say this and I don't, or even like the take on the red pill stuff. Like I've seen some what's it, Cooper, what's the guy's, Rich Cooper, or I've seen some stuff in there. Some of the guys make good points. It's just some of their delivery is really rough, you know? And so sometimes it's in there too. So it's like trying to understand or navigate, because I don't really fall into red pill stuff because we do a lot of relationship work too. But I also see why it's there too, because it's not out of just pure craziness either. So there's an understanding that I just don't have. Can you maybe help fill me in? Because you're in a different system. I got to learn more.
I mean, I'll revert to spin a little bit, but like saying you're the protector and stuff, my understanding of how that is perceived as toxic is you're saying the woman needs to be protected, right? And that they're incapable of protecting themselves. Generally, what I concluded was pretty much any negative character trait for a human is that we would normally describe is slapped onto toxic masculinity, and then anything like a woman is capable of doing herself and the man wants to do for her can be perceived as toxic. So like if the man wants to be the provider and her stay at home, the wife stay at home, or the girlfriend or whatever, the partner, like I've noticed people saying that that's toxic. Now, is that a pattern? I can't say necessarily if that's consistent currently.
What about if somebody wants to buy a girl a present because he loves her? Is that toxic because she could have bought it herself?
Yeah. No, I mean, let's be honest. Any man who has money and is in a heterosexual relationship will most likely be involved in hypergamy, which means she will love or be attracted to a man who's making more than her or is physically attracted. And so most likely in that scenario, they're going to be happy about it.
It sounds not toxic if you say it that way. It sounds normal.
No, but it's generally the people who aren't in those scenarios that are upset and think those scenarios are toxic.
Or people that wouldn't be chosen by a guy in the hypergamy system to be like, I wouldn't choose you. You're a maniac.
People with low sexual market value generally don't like the sexual market. And
well said. Yeah, I think that's on all sides. If you have low value in the sexual market, you're going to hate the sexual market. Just a reminder of how I'm not doing that well.
It's instant feedback. That's the one thing I liked about being an electrician. If I fucked up, sparks would fly, and I knew I had to fix something.
I'll be standing still for longer than I mean to. Like,
the sexual market value is the same shit. It's like, are you getting laid or are you not getting laid? Well, I'm not getting laid.
No, okay, are you being chosen or not chosen? You know, what's your resume look like? Is it good or not good? What is your skills? What makes you interesting? Yeah, if you don't know your own resume, of course you're gonna hate job interviews.
Yeah, exactly. So that's if you don't like what you're getting paid, you're gonna say the system's broke.
Yeah, that's funny. I like that. I like that. That makes sense. All right, I do have some questions. Okay. Woman needs protecting that they're incapable of protecting themselves. I think there's a competency thing here. Let me just put it out there. I don't care if it's triggering to people. I have 5 girls in my house. I've got 3 teenagers. Andrea's cousin lives here. She's 23 now. And Andrea, we're in our 40s. Okay.
Okay.
If I gave all 5 of those girls baseball bats and they can all attack at the same time, I guarantee you I'm the one walking out. I'm a trained fighter. I am also, we did the math with my daughter. She's 17. I am mathematically 6 times stronger than her.
Oh my God. Yeah.
This is not a fair fight. And she's an athletic girl. She plays soccer and stuff. But we did the math. What's my max? What's her max? I am 6 times stronger than she is, especially upper body. It's not even close. In which case, if there's somebody who walks in here and wants to hurt people, should I be rock, paper, scissoring? Who's going to take this one?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Okay, here's the example people use. They're like, yeah, you're on a date with a guy and someone's coming to mug you. If he runs away, how do you feel about him?
Right? Sure. And I mean, even as a dude, I'm like,
unattracted to him. Exactly. But exactly. So that
But
it's like, could she protect herself? Okay, maybe if she has mace or a gun, but probably not.
no,
And like, you know what I mean? So it's like,
no,
I
unless,
don't
I
know.
mean, the likelihood
I'm
that
with you.
she's Batgirl, it's not likely.
They do exist, but
Yeah, but I
they're
mean, like,
few and far between.
dude,
Yeah.
you're talking about the 0.0001% at this point. Who can
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey some dude? It's not likely.
And Ronda Rousey,
It's not going to
1,000%.
happen. You're not going to armbar this
Yeah.
guy. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. But I mean, it comes back to the same thing. Like the people who are offended by you opening a door for them, right?
It's just being nice. I'd
That's
open the door for you. There's no offense. I'd be like, hey, just being dudes.
exactly. But that's the mentality I'm talking about of like, that's the person who's provoked.
I think
So,
for me, I just see judgments are that's where your wounds are, man. If you're trying to judge people into being something different, and in this case, the weird thing is all of these things like protect somebody. That means I put myself in physical harm's way so you don't have to. And to judge that as negative, it's like, where's the appreciation for sacrifice? Because for women, reassurance and safety and security is very important in all aspects, physically, financially, you name it, across the board. It's important to feel safe. Well, guys don't get that luxury because in order for you to feel safe, I have to be not safe for you to have that. If I have to fight an assailant, I'm not safe. My body is in harm's way. I may get stabbed or beat up or whatever, but you don't have to for that scenario. This is where it's like, there's no way that between Andrea and myself, we have played around and I accidentally hurt her with 2 fingers, just goofing, just us playing, not even fighting, just goofing around. She's like, oh, that really hurt. And I'm like, maybe we're goofing. I'm not even like, this isn't an attack. You know, it's like if 2 fingers of us just playing around can put you down, you're not going to deal with like a 6'2" dude at 240 running in here. You're not going to do it. It's not going to do anything. It's not the movies. This doesn't work like that.
Right.
You know, and so it's just not a realistic scenario. And I have combat training. Like there's nobody in here who's more proficient than me. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make sense at all. And so this is where it gets interesting. Where do you show appreciation for a person who would take their skills and strength to make it so you don't have to be in harm's way instead of saying, I judge you as being bad? Like you're shaming something that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
What an amazing sacrifice for somebody. And so this is where I get into like, if you're going to shame something that good, this is like shaming a woman for having sex with like you love me and you had sex with me. You're a bitch. You're like, whoa. Like that's a kindness. This is a generous offer. This is a beautiful moment. Right. This is a surrender to each other. This is a connection point. And if you're going to destroy something beautiful, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Why are we destroying our good things? What's the wound? What is happening inside of there that you're judging great things as bad things? Unless I really like that you said the sexual market. If you have low sexual value, you're going to hate the sexual market. And so, of course, you'll shame the market. You guys are all a bunch of assholes. It's like, well, what's your actual value? You're a dick for judging. Aren't you judging everything?
Yes. Yeah. You're making me think of one of my most triggering posts I ever did. The post was essentially, don't ask a fish how to go fishing. Dating advice.
Yeah.
And anyway, everyone who was upset, I would say, was not high on the bracket of sexual market value. And from that point, I started to observe that tendency. And but man, the protector stuff too. Like, sorry, I just have to get back to this. I don't think women realize that men, I'm not going to use the word fantasize, but they envision all the scenarios in which they need to protect their woman.
Of course.
And it's like, that's like, okay, in this scenario, if this happens, this is what I plan to do. Like I don't know how many guys I've talked to that are wired that way.
We have to. You have to be prepared in some way, shape, or form. You know, if you're going to protect somebody, you can't be completely blindsided always. No. It's no different than having a vision or a goal for like, I want to build something beautiful. I can't just start putting pieces of wood together with no idea.
Right. of
You
how
still
he
have to have an
become the
idea.
same.
What's my game plan if this
Yeah,
scenario would happen? You still have to have an idea.
and some capabilities, at least know pivot points of gravity on a human body, at
Yeah.
least.
You're either
Jesus.
trained or untrained. You know, there's a Denzel
Yeah.
Washington thing for Man on Fire where he goes like, there's only two kinds of people, trained or untrained. That's how we operate in the warrior's way for both men and women. You either know what to do
Mm,
or you don't know what to do. That's it. So you're either
yeah,
trained or
that's true.
untrained. And if you're untrained, you'll bitch. If you're trained, you'll be tactical and you'll, have an action. There'll be a thing that you do.
That's
So
so
do you
true.
know what to do? And this goes in every aspect. This is why we've been beating anxiety. This is why we've been beating depression. This is why people are getting off of medication because they were treating symptoms and not roots. We get into,
Mhm.
are you trained to fight doubt, fear, distractions, excuses? Are you trained to beat anger? Are you trained to beat denial, which is one of the hardest ones? Are you trained to understand and recognize bargaining? Are you trained or not trained? Do you know or don't know? That's it. That's the only two kinds of people there
Right.
are. And people who blame,
Right.
shame, and judge, even throw guilt or put guilt on people, are part of the not solution team.
Mm.
Second
Yes.
rule in the warrior's way is
Exactly.
no blame, no shame, no judgment. It doesn't help. It just gets in the way. Stuff has happened. That is. How are you going to handle it? What did you learn from it? Every mistake is meant to teach you something. Every loss is a lesson. Take your lesson, get rid of the rest. I don't need to sit in guilt and shame. I don't need to. It's in the way. I learned already.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that again. Lesson learned. Moving on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I want to give a good practical example for that one. Recently, a business partner of mine, after 6 months, decided that he didn't want to be in the partnership anymore.
Sure.
And post this breakup, my wife was like, "Why aren't you angry? And why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you consoling with him for trying to figure out why he broke it up?" And I was like, "Uh, it's happened. I'm not here to educate him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to figure out what to do next. So I'm just focused on what the next steps are." And that was just like the triage in my brain. I was like, waste of time, waste of money, waste of emotion. Next. Like that was it.
Well, race to acceptance, and people don't understand how well trained you can be through grieving cycles. We do that all the time. Like, all right, can you believe that happened? Like, oh man, I can't believe he just posted that shit. Damn, man, I wonder if I would have said something different if he would have been doing something different here. I mean, it's a dick move. What a fucking asshole for even making it public like this. But I guess I'm all alone on this one now. So, all right, let's figure it out.
Right.
That's your grieving cycles. You had to go through all of them. Denial, I can't believe it's happening. Bargaining, if only I would have done this, then maybe this. But it's kind of a dick move, so fuck that injustice. But I'm all alone now, and I'm sad, but okay. What are we going to do? Action, acceptance, meaning, honor. What is it?
Let's just fucking go. I don't want to sit around.
Go through each thing, though. People think it's wrong. I do it all the time. I was sitting here, I had a race to acceptance with you. I was like, I got my awesome Batman cup. I love that shit, but I'm out of coffee. I can't believe I'm out of coffee in my Batman cup. If only I would have got coffee before this, then I would still have coffee. Sucks that I don't have any fucking coffee, but now I'm sitting here without coffee. All right, let's get coffee. Like, that's the system. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter like what it is. You still have to go through your cycles, and we do it sometimes multiple times in the day. But we may not be aware that we're doing it because we're untrained in the system that we're in. If you're not trained in it, you can be stuck in it for long enough that your grieving cycle becomes your identity. You become the trauma. You become the thing that happened to you. And how many times have you seen people who, when you meet them, they identify as a story of something that happened to them? Well, I was abused. Well, I was abandoned. Well, I was, in an abusive relationship. Well, I was.
Right.
And their story is their identity instead of going, well, I was definitely putting myself in a situation where I learned some really, really nasty lessons. Never doing that again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
lots of victim identity for sure.
Of course.
It can even look not even like a victim. Like, for example, 2019, I cracked my skull, went through TBI, right? 9 months recovery. And I could not wait for me to not have to be referencing that, right?
Yes.
I was like, this isn't a part of my identity. This is just part of my story. You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever. And I was like really annoyed when people kept bringing up in conversation, I was like, nah, it's whatever. Like, fuck that. Like, that's just the past. Like, this is who I am. So I've never thought of it in that respect of attaching identity. So that's why I'm bringing it up. But I remember being absolutely repulsed with the idea of, hey, this is Tim. He's the TBI guy. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that.
I
Mm-mm.
love
I'm
it.
not going to become some advocate for helmets or whatever the fuck. Like, that's not me. You know what I mean? Like, I made it through it. We're good. On to the next.
Sure.
Hopefully not
As long as you
injured.
people go through it healthy, though, and this is why like they misunderstand the terminology for the race to acceptance isn't how fast you go. It's just that
Mm,
acceptance and honor and meaning for whatever happened. That's the finish line. It may take months, it may take years, but still you have to
mm,
get to like, I'm aiming for the acceptance aspect in each category. And if people don't know that and they're untrained in that, the idea or the answer sounds good, but if I don't know how to do it, it doesn't matter. And that's why, like,
So
I'm
that,
with this. I'm like, I put the answers right on the table. Go ahead and give it a shot.
yeah,
When you get
right.
jammed up, call me up, and we'll put you in one of the groups. We'll get you in a unit of the guys, and we'll train together. And then by the end of it, you'll be so proficient that you'll be a healthy pack leader for your team, and you'll be able to lead and show your family how to also go through your grieving cycle because life is gonna
Mhm,
keep hitting.
mhm, mhm. Interesting. When it comes to the acceptance phase, what's your feeling on people who subscribe to the belief of everything happens for a reason? How do you
It's
approach that?
there's a few things. It's just dangerous to get in too far, and the I think the counter argument is Pollyannaism. This is where they get into like everything's awesome, the Lego song, and it's like, well, it's not all awesome, but maybe there is like purpose for why it's there, and it is like it's not what happens, it's how you handle it. This is stoicism.
Okay.
So this is where it gets into the idea of, well, there's all right, how esoteric am I going to get? I don't want to go too far into causality. Okay. But there's a choice that you made that led to another choice, that led to another choice, that led to another choice. And you can go back and choose individual points where that one decision changed trajectory and everything. What if you didn't go on a date with your wife? What if you skipped that date? Well, where would you be
Okay.
now? What if, you saw photography stuff, but just never chose to do it? Well, where would you be now? We wouldn't even be talking if you just didn't make that
Right.
one choice. You start going all the way back into the first job you ever took, or the way you handled that one relationship. Like, it's all these choices that we made, and they led us
Right.
down paths that each one takes us a different way. How many decisions happened because you had a job for too long? And like, how many opportunities did you miss? And any one day you could have gone a different direction. Every day, though, choice, 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 choice. Any case, when it starts getting into everything happens for a reason, part of it is true, but it's also more of a how do you handle when things happen, because there may be a lesson you just need to learn from it. But if we get
Mm,
into like, well, I'm supposed to have had that. Here's an example for causality. Not everything is good. Okay. It can be like something good can come from it, but not everything is good. So one of my head coaches, Ryan, Ryan he was military for 17 years, became a corrections officer, worked at a prison, got injured in a prison fight, with the guards, all had to fight all the dudes and ruined his shoulder. So he's on disability and stuff. So he started working with us and was going through a bunch of stuff. He told me the story that one of the toughest losses that he's ever had was he had two dogs that he loved, and one of the dogs, he had to put them down. They were old, so he just had the one dog left. This was his best friend in the world. They'd go to the park all the time. They would always be playing. Anywhere he would go, this dog would go. It's a beautiful Labrador,
mm,
like good dog. And like everywhere he'd go, this dog was with him. Loved this girl, good girl, right? Well, they were at home after a day at the park, just winding down, getting ready to chill out. And the dog had like a seizure or a stroke. Something happened where like the back half of the dog just lost all function. Like the dog just
well,
lost all bodily function. The legs wouldn't work. Just something happened. Something happened, and like from the middle part of the dog down just quit working. And he was freaking out. So he takes his dog as his best friend. He takes his dog to the vet, and the vet's like, you can't do anything with this. This is it, man. We have to put her down. There's no
mm,
quality of life with this. This is it. And he was like, oh my God, it's, this morning we're playing in the park and now I'm putting my best friend down all in one day. And he's like, this is fucking nightmare fuel right now. And so he has to put his dog down, devastated. Well, he didn't have any coping mechanisms, anything that he ever had to deal with stuff. Well, like you said, with the guys, name a country song that doesn't have drinking involved when things go wrong. So he's like, I just lost my best friend. We're going to the bar. So he goes to the bar. He's like, tonight is get destroyed night. I'm fast forwarding this day. I'm going to get so drunk I don't feel anything. So he's sitting at the bar. He's having his drinks and he's just really down on himself. And there's this cute girl sitting next to him, like not next to him, but like near him. And the conversation sparks up and she's asking what's going on. And he starts telling the story. And then they start talking and like they talk and talk and talk. And like their conversation keeps going. Long story short in this whole thing, the lady that he met at the bar, they've been married now 10 years. They have 2 kids and like he loves his boys. He's a good dad, like does all the things to it. If his dog would have waited 1 more day or 3 more hours to have that moment, he maybe wouldn't have met her and he wouldn't have his sons right now and he wouldn't be a good dad. He'd be doing something else completely. Was him losing his dog really bad, or was it needed for him to have a family that he has now?
Right.
Like we don't know, and you've heard the story of like the China man who's like, the horse died and they're like, oh, that's tragic. He's like, maybe, we don't know yet, and then they find out the horse is, you've heard the story. The son breaks his leg and then doesn't go to doesn't get drafted. Like maybe it is, maybe we'll see, like things are what they are. So is it him putting the dog down? Yeah, it's a sad story, man. That's sad. But it had to happen to have his sons. And is that sad? Well, no, that's beautiful. But I had to go through this tragedy to even have this beautiful family. Or else that family wouldn't exist if that tragedy never happened. So was it bad?
Right. That complements my philosophy of like, when bad things happen, it means good things are around the corner. Like,
could be, or just things are around the corner, and how are you going to look at it?
That's very true. I just like to try to take it as encouragement rather than discouragement. Well,
like, hey, again, it's just perspective. Good. Some people would say like one person's that's encouraging is another person's fuck that.
Fuck you, I'm just gonna sit in the shit.
Some people do, man. Like there are even the shadow warriors. Like I have Enneagram 4 people, guys who are able to go into the darkness and they get energy from it. That's a thing. There are people. I've done really unique training. It's not normal psychology training. When I train these guys, my romantic types, my feelers, my heart side warriors who are Enneagram 4s, they're able to sit in the dark and they can sit in there when other people can't and be okay. These are the Tim Burtons, the Shakespeares, the Edgar Allan Poes. These are the guys that can go and find romanticize the darkness. These are the guys who are the poets, the guys who, write the black and white screenplay. Like these are those guys. And so there is power and there is something in there, but you can't take my Enneagram 2s in there. You can't take the helpers in there. This is nightmare fuel. And so like, you do have, there is some strength in some people who can do it. I call it shadow work. We go in there and we do it deliberately. We go into the abyss and we stare into the nothing and let them play with the dark. And they come back feeling better, doing things that would be not okay with most people. Write your own obituary or sit in a shallow grave and imagine death. They're like, I don't know why I like it, but I feel great when I'm done. And other people are like, I am not doing that. That's crazy.
That's the fun part about life is the self-discovery journey of like who you are and what works for you to help you get to where you want to go.
Without judgment. This is where I'm going to keep going in. I listen to the toxic masculinity, a provider who wants to take care of his wife. Listen, men are givers, women are receivers. There's nothing wrong with that. But to say that it's wrong for somebody to want to give and for someone to want to receive, the judgment itself is the toxic part, not necessarily the intentions.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even believe in the term toxic masculinity. I think there's just negative character traits and that's it.
Yeah, this is
Like,
why I was asking what it means, because I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
ah, it's a moving target.
It
And there's no
is.
toxic femininity, not really.
It's just
It's,
I
so it's
agree
just
more
like
with the
it's made up of
wounded
terms.
part, because I was talking with
Yeah.
I'm recording with Miriam Belcher tomorrow, and she works in the feminine side. So she's her
Hmm.
entire philosophies. They're she's very insightful. I really enjoy what she does, and the conversations are so good. But she does
Hmm.
explain, like, no, the women's side is not what society is saying, but our highest joy and our highest power and our most fulfillment does come from this part where we're nurturing and fun and playful and not nagging and not complaining. We're not tearing our guys down. We're not giving nasty looks. We're
Hmm.
enjoyable to be around. We receive and we're open to receive. We don't block our blessings, like, don't protect me and don't provide for me. It's like, what a blessing that this man would do that for me. And this makes me feel safe and secure and good. And
Right.
she's like, I've never been happier. But she was very highly toxic masculine and would emasculate her guy all the time. And she's like, let me tell you how I know that doesn't work. I really enjoy your answer with, if you have low sexual market value, you hate the sexual market, so people will shame and judge. And this is really funny. This is where you get into psychology. Carl Jung, one of my favorite quotes, is that thinking is hard. That's why people judge instead.
Oh, I
I would,
love that.
I would
That's
go
great.
further with it too. I'd add another part. I would say thinking and empathy are hard, and that's why people judge instead.
Mm-hmm. Empathy. There's a lack of that.
Well, especially for the men's side. Women have a hard time because of
Yeah.
hypergamy being empathetic to their man, because if they see their man as too weak, they get friend zoned. And I've talked to a lot of husbands who opened up really vulnerably and then end up living, sleeping in separate bedrooms.
Mhm.
And tell me that's not a lesson learned the hard way. If I opened up my heart, I was absolutely rejected.
Yeah.
What's the lesson there?
Yeah. Oof. I feel bad for those guys.
Bro,
Yeah.
there is aptitude in this of being able to say that we are able to connect with each other. Guys need guys. If you think you're going it
Oh,
alone,
God.
you're wrong. And I'm calling you right
Yeah.
out right now. If you think real men handle it on their own, I would say that weak warriors try and do everything by themselves. You ever heard of Navy SEALs or Delta Force? You ever heard of that? Delta team?
Yes.
You
Yes.
ever heard of that? Yeah.
Yes.
They all
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
together. What a bunch of pussies.
What a
Said
bunch of pussies.
nobody
Ever.
ever. You don't go to the Delta team. Like, it's the best of the best. Like, you're going to tell me, like, these guys, like these special ops guys are a bunch of wusses because they team up? You're done. You're toast. Football team, is it just, hey, Bob's got this?
Yeah.
No, it's a
Yeah.
team. You ever seen a
Dude.
construction site to build a sky rise where it's just one dude running back and forth from the crane and then climbing up and moving the thing and going back to the crane and then
Yeah.
going back? No, it's a team. You want to do something great, you sit there with the boys, protect the village, hunt and gather, build something amazing, have each other's backs, form a wall of shield so we can fight what's facing us in the world. Together, we're
Mhm.
always stronger.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if you got to work through
My
some shit, you take it
most
to your boys. And then you take the stuff you got worked out to your
1,000%.
girl.
Yes. I'm very intentional personally of what I process with those who I trust, my good friends. And then when I process with my wife, like I look at it literally how I am as an electrician. I ask the plumber for plumbing advice. I ask the roofer for roofing advice. That's literally how I approach it.
Mhm.
And it's been very beneficial for me, to say the least. So
Correctamundo. I agree with you. Take it to the right place. This has been pretty awesome, Timothy. I appreciate you very much, man. This has been a very cool
yeah,
conversation. Are you getting back into practice again? Are you building groups or working on a program? Are you doing anything in the works right now that you would like to promote? Or the book
I'm
even? Like,
just
what would you like to promote?
I'm more focused on the book right now. I've I, I I'm sure you've experienced this over the years where you just put in the work and things happen. Like some of my stuff has gotten picked up by Time magazine in the past. And
Nice.
I'm like, I'm a nobody, but it's like,
You're somebody,
so
man.
I'm humbly
You
self-atrocious.
can humbly still be a human being who's somebody.
But yes. Anyway, I have this feeling that once I plant that seed, good things will come from it, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to focus on that right now, and I want to do a business version next. And so there's energy around it for me, and trying to pursue that. But I haven't also, like, my website has been an open journal, public journal, but it kind of cuts off my late 20s, maybe early 30s. So I'm thinking I should pick back up, just to help for the people who have been growing with me.
Let me give you
And
some insight. Right now with the team that I've built and how deep that we go in the Warriors way. Like, do I see any other men's group as competition? Do I see, David Mueller, Garrett White, like any of these guys? Do I see any of them as competition? I'm like, real talk, I could probably only handle between 400 to 500 guys a year. Like, to really do the work that I do. I go hard and we tear shit out and we rebuild. It's too in depth for us to just do a blanket seminar. It's just too hard. We do real deep shit. I can only handle 400 to 500 people. That's all I can do. Well, how many guys are struggling out there?
A lot.
Millions. This means I can only reach so far. So nobody's my competition. I can only help more guys get to other guys because we all have different areas. I'm mind, body, but you got to do heart training. You got to do spirit training. There's no shortage of referrals necessary.
Right. Yeah.
Together, we're always stronger. All men's group, if they're competent, if they're good, not my competition, that's an ally. I would lock shields with any of them.
Listen, why?
So
I've met a few over the years.
When you're building something, they will come. Field of Dreams, that shit. When you build it, they will come. And then let me know, man. Keep in touch with me. Let's keep talking. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate you very much. And then I can start sending people your way.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, I'm putting you on mission, bro. When you finish the book or you finish the next thing, book another one. Let's record again and let's promote the shit out of it.
Okay. I appreciate that deeply.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for hanging with me, Tim.
Yeah, man. It was good. It went really quick, honestly. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been almost 2 hours. I just have another one in 5 minutes I got to do. I told you I got 6 of these today.
Get the fuck out of here.
All right. You got it. Right, later, Tim. We'll be in touch, brother. We'll put this up on Battlefield of the Mind, man, and we'll showcase some of your experiences and your wisdom. So thank you so much for this.
Thanks, man. All right.
Later, brother. We'll talk again.
Bye-bye.
Later.
All right. Bye.
Click on the button and you can become the hero in your own story. It's time to start making the choices to change. And the evolution that you're going to do begins with choosing the next step. This is the way. And together, we're always stronger.